What's up, everybody? It is your girl Carla. Welcome back to the channel Worth Beyond Circumstance. And today we are going to talk about why you care too much. Because it might be the reason why you're not progressing. Okay, we're going to talk about this because I feel like everybody in life has this issue. Most people in life have this issue. And I think that once we dissect it in a healthy way, then we can come up with a mutual ground of how to become more emotionally responsible and not give our energy out to just everybody. Okay. Working in healthcare has taught me so much more about energy. Okay. For starters, yes, we are all electrical beings. How do I know this? For starters, everything about us runs off of electricity, our heart space. It takes electricity to restart your heart. So that should tell you something. Um, and with that being said, we move according to how we feel. Feeling is an energy, right? So when you walk into a room and you feel this heavy feeling of uncertainty, intensity, or you can even have this feeling of excitement and just high energy, like that's a feeling, okay? That is, excuse me, a feeling. And as people, as we get older, we tend to know how to spend our time with others and where to pull back from people at and who to pull back from. But for a lot of people who are younger, they don't necessarily understand that. And even as we get older, a lot of times we tend to make excuses up for why we care too damn much. Okay. And if you only knew that an extension of that energy can be very draining, especially if you could have kept it to yourself, we would be much more restrictive of who we give it to. Okay. So, for starters, as a woman, we tend to care too much already. You know, we're very emotional beings. We always do everything and get our feelings involved. Is it wrong? I don't think that it's wrong because our emotions allow us to forgive people. Our emotions allow us to love as deeply as we do and to nurture and care as much as we do, you know? But when you're not being intelligent about how you're giving that off to people, it can really hinder you. Okay? It can really hinder you. Um, when you're too emotionally invested in something, it takes away from things that you could be investing into, you know, like friends, family. I mean, even TV shows, music, all of that can be very draining. Anything that you introduce to your subconscious, it literally weighs down. And I first experienced this maybe like 8 years ago. It was around when Shameless came out, and I was always watching Shameless on Netflix. And I would stop watching that show, and I would be feeling so about that life. Like I grew up in the streets of Chicago knowing grew up in the suburbs all my life. Like, and I would feel so rough and rugged after I watched that show. And it was after then I actually stopped watching TV. Like, I'll watch shows now, like with my kids, little Disney shows and everything. But for the most part, you won't catch me just sitting and watching a TV show ever. And if it was not for me having kids, I would not even own a TV because it's very draining, you know, and even the music that we listen to, I do believe that music is I mean, it is a form of expression, but a lot of that energy that other people are feeling that they're putting into their music is being projected onto us, and we don't necessarily feel or understand that. We just hear a good beat and we just start getting it to it, or we hear a good tune or good lyric and we start reciting it, not knowing what we're saying, not knowing what the intent behind this music was, the true intent, because they could tell us anything. In fact, they do be telling us just anything, but, what was the inspiration behind it? What was the true inspiration behind it? What emotions were you feeling from it? Um, I'm not gonna lie, I listen to everything. I will listen to the ratchet stuff. I will listen to the classical stuff. I will listen to jazz, R&B, soul. But there's a time and place for everything, you know? There's a time and place for everything. And I know that when I'm at the gym listening to a certain kind of music, I'm going to leave it all at the gym and not turn it right back again and listen to it again. Otherwise, it's going to make me feel like I listen to a lot of ratchet stuff at the gym. I'm not listening to that when I get home because I'm not trying to be in that mindset when I get home. Yeah, for some people, it might be easy to disconnect from that. But for a lot of people, we might subconsciously still be on that and not even know that's the frequency or the energy that we're giving off, you know? So that's something to be very like aware of, you know? And going back to like friends, you might have friends that are ultra fucking toxic. Ladies, we have the friend, okay, that is extremely toxic who can't get their life together, who's always complaining about a man, who's always complaining about what they're not trying to be accountable of. You know, you always have that somebody who's complaining about some work that they're not doing. And, you know, we want to be a good friend and help them out and give them the best advice, but at what point does it become too much? You see what I'm saying? And when you start to care and take on, you know, other people's issues, other your friends' issues, like it becomes draining. And I'm not gonna lie, like I don't have time for that shit. Period. And I am a firm believer of cutting stuff off in your life that no longer serves you. You know, there's a time and a place for everything, of course, you know, but that time and place is not every day picking up the phone and listening to you complain about things. You see what I'm saying? I'm not doing that. I got things to do. I got goals to accomplish. And if your energy is not right for the season that I'm in, you being the first one to cut. It's no shade, it's all love. You know, at this big age, we are expected to take care of ourselves. And that means emotionally, you know, and the same thing with um who you're dating, who you're in a relationship with plays a huge part, you know? A lot of times as women, as we get older, our we start to embody the things that we value more. You know, there might be behaviors that we participated in when we were younger that, you know, we would tolerate damn near almost anything. But as we get older, especially when you have children, you just not going for none of that no more, you know? And that requires you to place boundaries in the space of relationships. You know, you can't keep going back to people who are not willing to grow, you know, and they project their insecurities on you. That's an energy that you're taking on. And when you care too much, you get into this mindset or the space of, you know, I want to change you or I just love you and everything. Where if you just cut that mess off and you're just like, I'm not dealing with this, like I'm not settling for this, it allows you to make room for the things that you're supposed to have. Make room for the things that you say that you want, you know? And even in the workspace, you know, I go to work and I literally don't talk to nobody. I go and do my job. I'll key with my patients. I'll establish good relationships and rapport with my patients and their family members. You know, if I make a friend or two in the workplace, that's cool. But I am not here to make friends. This is business, period. Okay, so you can take what you want from the situation. You can think that I'm acting a certain kind of way. I do not care. I don't care. How does me participating in work drama, how does that help me? How does that help elevate me? You know? And so these are the types of things that when you look at, it allows you to see where you're caring too much. And because how draining it can be, it can cost you in a different area of life. If I spend all of my energy giving it to people who are just gonna take, complain, 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 always tell me about some shit that I don't care about, then it's taking away of what it is that I could be doing for myself, you know? Because we are energetic beings, we have to continuously feed our soul with things that is going to make us happy, things that are going to build our confidence, things that are going to make us feel worthy, things that we are going to thrive from. We need to be around people who are going to fill our cups in areas and teach us in these areas that we're lacking in. When you start to bring other people into your world who takes from you, and then your response is to care about what they say, uh-uh, absolutely not, yo. Like, no, we got to stop it. So I think it's very important that we have discernment about what we emotionally invest in. Jobs, relationships, family members, the randos on the street that nobody caring about, you know, being on the internet and posting videos. This is actually a reason why it's taken me so long to actually start doing YouTube videos, is because I've created this bubble in my world where I'm not really entertaining things that do not serve my highest purpose or do not allow me to grow. I don't entertain that. I don't talk to people every single day. And if I do, it's voluntarily. It's because I have the space for it, not because I'm trying to fill up my day with things that overstimulate me. And now I don't have the energy or the mental capacity to deal with my kids. No, I'm not doing that. And it's important to eliminate things in your life that is going to take away from another area in your life. All right. And so it's taken me a long time to really start on YouTube, because it's putting yourself out there for the world to see is almost like an open platform for people to start attacking you. But as I've gotten older, I realized that they gonna say whatever the fuck they gonna want to say about you. They can have an opinion, but when you spend the time with yourself, you get to know yourself, you understand who you are. It doesn't matter what somebody says about you, because you know who you are. You know your worth. You know what you deserve. It's you. So reconsider who you are emotionally investing into, because every time you make a connection with somebody and you choose to care about something that does not serve you, you are taking away parts of yourself and giving it to somebody else. And you have to ask yourself, am I getting this back in return? Not that it has to be super transactional, but are you giving them energy and they're just taking it? Or are you giving them energy and they're helping you build upon that? Okay. And this is why a lot of us are stuck. We get into the mindset of caring too much, and then when we care too much, you start to doubt yourself. You start to become drained. You start to become delusional about things, because it's just like, is it me that's actually feeling like this, or is it the energy that they're projecting onto me that has me feeling like this? You start to feel insecure because somebody else, you can show up to the function thinking that you look cute, and somebody else be like, nah, sis, that ain't it. But it's always a feeling that you have to have in order to feel a certain way. But you were feeling great before you asked for the opinion of somebody else. Validate yourself. Don't wait for other people to validate you. You can allow self-doubt to creep in when you're constantly emotionally invested into the things that other people say. Like, you're taking their word over yours. And I know that sounds like, how are those two the same thing? Like, you know, mixing energies and seeking validation from people, how does that mesh over into caring too much? Because naturally we have feelings and emotions, and we respond and we interact, and we have this level of um, perspective based off of how we feel. And if you're feeling down because you're around somebody who is constantly draining you, how does that help you? How does that benefit you? You know? And so, whether it be your family who is getting on your nerves, be the bigger person. If you don't do it for anybody else, do it for that little girl inside of you who feels betrayed, crossed, disrespected, embarrassed, you have to speak up for starters. And secondly, being able to detach and disconnect from the projection that somebody else is placing on you. It's not your responsibility. It's not. Somebody else's perspective, especially when it's coming from a negative place, is not your responsibility. And when you feed into that and you start to care and you don't have, I don't want to say a backbone, you don't have the discipline to be able to see that their projections is them and not you, and you allow yourself to care, you start to slip. You see what I'm saying? So I think that this is important because this helps when you start to pull all of that back, giving yourself to people who don't deserve you. It starts to really it really starts to benefit you because you can see pieces of you starting to come back together. Spending time alone is not a bad thing. You know, I posted a short a while ago, and well, actually, I created it a while ago, but I just reposted it last week about depression. And if you really break the etymology down of depression or the word down, it's deep rest. Your body is in a state of deep rest, and you're sad about it because your physical self is is trying to grasp and holding on to something that you're actually avoiding. And when you go into a deep rest, it allows you to recover from what it is that's actually keeping you in a depression, what's actually keeping your soul from elevating. So being able to understand when your soul, when self needs to take a break from the physical to re-energize and to rebuild, it's important to do that. And with doing that, not everybody's gonna agree with you. Not everybody, there's always somebody who's gonna tell you who you need to be, how you need to act, how you need to sound, how you gotta show up to the function, how you gotta dress. And if we're too busy trying to please everybody around us, how are you pleasing yourself? How are you helping yourself? So we have to take care of ourselves first. You have to know who to emotionally invest in. That is what makes you an emotionally intelligent person. Not to give yourself to people who don't deserve you, but give yourself to people who is going to help elevate you. There's people out there and you deserve that. You're worthy of that. This comes with understanding your value. What keeps you at peace? You know, being in the house on the weekends and not turning up at the club every weekend, like if you do that, more power to you, sis. I don't have the energy for it, okay? Dancing to the same song, seeing the same people, drinking the same drink, you know, experiencing the same hangover. Baby, if that is what you do, maybe not in that order. Please continue to do it. You have the energy for it. But as you get older, understand this, that you are not going to be able to keep up that lifestyle. You might not be able to keep up the lifestyle of hanging out with people that you don't like. You might not be able to keep up the lifestyle of clocking into a job that you hate. You might not have the energy to keep up the lifestyle of interacting with toxic family members. You got to separate yourself. Create that space. I promise it'll be the best space that you will ever have in your life. And take that space to put into yourself. Use everything that you give to everybody else. I'm gonna tell you something, and we're gonna end it at that. There is nobody in this world who deserves you more than you. So, for every failed friendship that you have, for every failed relationship you have, for every failed job that you had, and you felt as if you could have given them or that you have given them the best parts of yourself and they didn't appreciate it, that is because you are meant to experience that energy in its entirety, all of it. So, go experience it. Put the blinders on and leave everybody outside to do what they do, but go experience you. You know yourself better than anybody. and you know what you're capable of. You know the love that you give. You know who you are, and you know the energy that you put out. Go into hiding and experience that energy and that love for yourself. It'll be the best experience you will ever have in this life, and you will learn to love yourself so more and to stop caring about what others think, say, and do when it comes to you. And then you will see how you progress in this world so much more when you stop caring about the people who don't care about you. All right. All right, ladies. I will see you later. Thank you for joining me, and I will chat with you soon.